The numbers! What are they saying?
6, 11, 25.
Right fellas, we have all heard the rumours about Tranzit returning in Black Ops 2020, but what about Die Rise and Buried? Well, we hear nothing. Instead, we hear about Vietnam zombies that takes place in the Black Ops universe. It all sounds really interesting, but where would Die Rise and Buried fit in? Because they are coming, we kind of have evidence, which we will go over later. I am pretty damn certain that these maps are going to be a part of the new storyline, and basically you can forget what you know about the original trio of Transit maps, which I don't think is a big deal because both the storyline and gameplay of those maps, how do you put it? I mean, it does the big suck, and we all know it. It's a fact. But how do Die Rise and Buried fit into this? Because with Transit it's pretty simple. We've gone over it before. The Hanford site it is based on, and Operation Green Run, which was run out of the Hanford site. It was a nuclear test place facility during the Cold War. I mean, obviously Transit in the actual map is very different. It takes place in like the 2030s. It's in the future. The world has been blown up by 115 rockets, but the real life inspiration comes from the Cold War. But Die Rise and Buried are completely different stories because Die Rise takes place in the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in China, and Buried is all kinds of effed up. I mean, it takes place in a mine shaft in Angola, Africa, but because of all the time distortion, there's an old cowboy town which has been teleported there, and some large brain-dead fool from like the medieval times. Well, I found this out to fit almost too perfectly. So what about Kowloon in the Black Ops universe? It's part of Hong Kong, so it kind of fits with Die Rise being like in China, you know, Shanghai and stuff. And I went back to play the mission that takes place in Kowloon Numbers from the original Black Ops, and damn, the gameplay, like running through the hallways and then jumping, doing kind of parkour, jumping from roof to roof and ledge to ledge, it really reminds me of Die Rise. In fact, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that might be what inspired the zombies team to like attempt something like Die Rise in the first place. Yeah, pretty simple. That is how you would reimagine Die Rise into the Black Ops universe and the Cold War setting. Now, oh shit, I almost forgot. While I was playing Die Rise, I found a new piece of information, a message from the Chinese leaker Victor. He had something interesting to say.
上我每天都在制作视频博客，但我不这样做叉叉，我真。
Buried is pretty interesting. I kind of have a theory here that, well, we know for a fact that Treyarch were working on more Chaos maps that never got released. One of the last updates they did for Black Ops 4, they added the Eye of Apophis, like, weapon into multiplayer, but I'm pretty sure that would have been the wonder weapon of the Chaos map that never got released, and that would have taken place in the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. That's what Medusa talks about at the end of Ancient Evil. Right, so in Blackout Battle Royale, you have the entire Buried town, which goes to prove that Treyarch were working on Buried, but then they also probably got really far on developing this Egypt map, which will probably never be released because the Chaos storyline is probably done, so they could easily put those two maps together and just say, hey, it's an Egypt map. Buried is now in Egypt during the Cold War, and that's the thing with, like, the pyramids and, like, tombs and whatnot at Egypt, is it doesn't matter what time period it is, it's going to be the same thing, isn't it? Back during Black Ops 4, you had rumours from very credible sources like the Woo Lads and the Gaming Revolution that the Transit maps were planned to come back. But, you know, that did change. But we even have the physical evidence, like what we talked about Buried in Blackout, but from day one of Black Ops 4 in Blackout, there was the Transit Diner, then later in a multiplayer map, Remnant I think it is, the Transit Bus and Ted show up, so you really think that they did all this work, Treyarch did all this work remastering or remaking parts of the Zombies maps, which had not come back yet, for multiplayer and for Blackout, but not for Zombies? Nah, come on, man. And also, it just fits too perfectly that they were working on Black Ops 4, then in a day switched to working on COD 2020. This is why the endless rumours about Transit returning and why I am certain Die Rise and Buried are coming back is because Treyarch basically never stopped working on them. It just makes sense for them to continue what they were doing if it wasn't released yet. Anyway, fellas, that's all the speaking my voice box can handle for today, so stay spicy and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.